we are responsible for management of psychoactive substances independent of the legal status, with exemption of cessation on tobacco, which is in another department. And we also work with prevention and policy development on alcohol. And as a new issue for us is also on the prevention and policies around gaming and gambling. As some of you might know, the International Classifications of the Diseases 11th revision adopted in the World Health Assembly in May classified also gaming use disorders in ICD-11. So we work with a broad field of substances, and I'm going to talk to that. And it would be interesting to know here how many is mainly working on alcohol in the audience. How many are mainly working on illicit drugs? On gaming and gambling, on tobacco, on polygraph. How many is working in treatment and harm reduction? How many are working in policy development, administration, prevention, so-called prevention? And how many are students and researchers? Okay. It's a very broad group here, huh? It's a very broad group, and that's a huge potential also to work together, because that's the one main issue. Having worked in this field for 30 years, the main barrier for reaching through is that we are not able to work together. And that is the main challenge. I will come back a little bit to that. The topic, alcohol is in fact a psychoactive substance. And there are many ways of classifying psychoactive substances. We try to do it in 3 different dimensions. And that is the toxic effects on your organs and tissues. The other is the intoxication, leading to changes in your behavior and lack of control, and the dependence-producing propensities of substances. We know that this is also a challenge model. Many people now are starting to say that everything is toxicity and dependence doesn't exist. But we still think that this is a very good model to understand the dynamics inside a psychoactive substance and between psychoactive substances, but not comparing them, because that is sometimes a dangerous road. The additional variable which is included here is, of course, exposure to the psychoactive substance. In that, you have a whole picture of the society, what you're dealing with, and what you have to try to work with. Unfortunately, there are so many different perspectives, as I talked about. One of the main perspectives is, of course, to look at the public health effects of the use of psychoactive substances and the negative consequences for society and the individual and others at large. Another competing perspective is to look at the control effects. And what are the control effects of these psychoactive substances? What are they creating? What kind of problems are they creating for the society and the individual? And the third, slightly linked to the second but differently, is those that address the lack of availability of psychiatric substances for medical, therapeutic care and scientific purposes. And that's just inside our little public health community. And then you mix it with everything else, culture, religion, ideology, philosophy, everything, and it becomes really, really, really difficult. And we have to concentrate, how can we do this? What is the best public health approach if that is our standard? And that is my standard. What is the best for society? And then we have to look at all these others. And of course, these are many of you have all these 3 perspectives in you, but sometimes you have chosen one perspective as your main perspective, and the words that you are using are reflecting that perspective. Back to alcohol. So harmful use of alcohol is a global health problem, no doubt about that. It's one of the leading risk factors for the global burden of disease. It's huge in Europe when you look at compared to other risk factors. It is also very big in most other regions of WHO, except the Eastern Mediterranean region, where of course religion is such an overarching model for alcohol use that it really reduces the use. Of course, there are problems there. There are pockets, there are human rights issues, and there are treatment issues, which we also are working with that region on. And the issues with alcohol compared, for example, to tobacco or illicit drugs is that the toxic effects on intoxication effects and dependency leading to harm are shown. It's a rainbow model from communicable to non-communicable diseases, injuries, violence, cancer, etc., etc. And one important consequence of that is that for alcohol, there's no specific disease-oriented groups who are really hardly allocated for changes. With the exemption, perhaps, of road safety interest groups. Well, in tobacco, we know the cancer movement has been very huge. In illicit drugs, the HIV/AIDS community has been very, very prominent. But in alcohol, we see really a lack of disease-oriented groups trying to do something at the public health perspective. This is gradually changing, luckily, but it's still a challenge for us. And so it has been left to risk factor perspectives and to more broader societal perspectives to be driving this inside the public health community. I won't go into all the details, but alcohol is so the first one, this one, is how alcohol-related harm is distributed among the different diseases. And this is how alcohol and harmful use of alcohol is contributing to the different diseases. And you see it's a huge contribution to men. This is only a few of the diseases and health outcomes that alcohol is directly contributing to. Now, of course, the last years it's been a lot of focus on alcohol and cancer. And several models, there are thousands of prevention or conceptual models for how to deal with drugs and alcohol. This is just one model that we use to try to identify entry points and justifications for what we are doing. And of course, it has to start with the volume and the pattern of alcohol. If that hadn't been present, there wouldn't have been alcohol-related problems. Of course, there would have been other problems, but not alcohol-related problems. And sometimes quality of alcohol, but that's minor. Right? It's big news, but in the public health perspective, the quality of alcohol, the contamination is a minor issue. But when it reaches something, it's like a plane crash, and it reaches big and it gets headlines. But it's a minority of alcohol-related health outcomes are linked to the quality of health. And then you have the individual vulnerability and the societal vulnerability. So one important factor that we have been focused on lately, which has been very much clearer for us, is that the lower socioeconomic groups are getting much more harm from the same level as alcohol as the higher socioeconomic stratas. And of course, another entry point for us is alcohol regulation. I will skip this one because, and just quickly go through the consumption, which is reducing a lot in Europe, but it's increasing, especially in Western Pacific and Southeast Asia, and this is creating huge problems for us, because there are also high abstention rates, if something happens there. This is Cyprus. I just wanted to show that what is happening in Cyprus. I must admit, when I was in 2000, one Cypriot asked me, I went to Israel on a boat ferry, and he asked me to buy a bottle of vodka, and I did, and brought it with me. But I'm not sure what they do, but I'm not sure what is happening in Cyprus, and this is something we need to work on, and SAFER, which I will come back to, is one way that you can start to address this. Yes. Effective interventions, we know what works, we know what not works, and we know very little about many other of the interventions. But clearly, reducing availability, increasing prices, and reducing marketing has an effect, and is our entry point for what we are trying to do. So basically, to summarize, we know a lot of the problems, we know a lot of the solutions to our different work, and we know a lot of the decisions. We have the global strategy to reduce harmful use of alcohol, we have the density action plan, and we have now also alcohol firmly linked to the sustainable development goals, together with narcotic drug use in a target 3.5 on improving treatment and prevention of substance abuse. So it's time to deliver. And we think that SAFER and the new SAFER initiative is one way that not only the national level, but also local communities can grasp this model. It's very boring for those of you who have been working in prevention for a long time. It's the old stuff. This is not the new stuff through social media and through health literacy and everything. This is the basic. This is based on science, what we know, and where we should start working. And we have introduced it together with partners. It was introduced in New York last year. Our DG, Dr. Taylor, is very much in favor of SAFER, is promoting it and is supporting the SAFER initiative. We have the SAFER interventions. And as I said, it's about strengthening restrictions on alcohol availability. It's advancing and enforcing drink driving countermeasures. It's facilitating access to screening, brief intervention and treatment. It's enforcing bans and comprehensive restrictions on alcohol and promotion and sponsorship. And it's raising the price of alcohol through excise taxes. And the interesting thing is that all these interventions could be funded by the increase in excise taxes. So this could be a self-funded initiative at the national level. And we have also three main strategies. Of course, we need to implement. You need political awareness, and you need willingness, and you need infrastructure to implement these measures. And you need to monitor. We need to monitor whatever we are doing if we want to be science-based and scientific. And lately, what we have experienced also that commercial interests are so huge, not only in alcohol. By the way, looking at the cannabis now and how it's taken over by the commercial interests is really something that should scare us all. And how this blurring between CBD and THA and medical use and recreational use, it's time for us to wake up and address it properly from a public health perspective. It's more digression there. But we need to protect public health from commercial interests, and we need to be sure that this is public health-based policies that we are formulating and implementing. And we have three work streams. I won't go into details. You can go into our website and read more about it. I think it's also interesting to know that there are, the key target group is of course the Ministry of Health, the desk officers, those working on developing alcohol policies. But it's also for all the other governmental sectors, because most of these interventions are outside of the health sector, and we in the health, we get a little bit sweaty in our hands talking about taxation, marketing, licensing and all those things, or road safety. It's out of our domain. So we need to also reach out to them, and we need to reach out to the local communities, and we need to investigate what are the competencies at local community and what they can work with to implement SAFER. Of many places, marketing is very much competency of local authorities or licensing. And you need to then go through an assessment of how we should be working, what is the local situation, because you have to start with the local situation, you have to start with the local culture, but that shouldn't stop you, because using the culture as an excuse, luckily we stopped that with road safety a long time ago. If a person had drunk a wine at the best dinner and then killed the person, it doesn't matter. So we have to address what part of the culture is destructive and what part of the culture is it that we can keep and should be keeping. We can't just use a culture as an excuse for not doing anything. We have a timeline. We hope that Cyprus also would be interesting to work with us. We know, for example, that there are many issues in the local municipalities. We know, for example, the tourist consumption, but also